Hello, my name is Brett Stalkup. Welcome to the Choices Podcast, official.com live stream. You can always find us on Facebook. Our website is there, our YouTube website, Choices Podcast, official.com. Feel free to comment any question that you want on Facebook during this live show. Before I introduce Carcass John, I'd like for you to know that our special guest tonight is a dear friend of mine since 1972, Denny Brewer from the Denny Brewer family. He's an awesome friend of mine. He's a church going guy. He and his dad started church law. So I'm sure he's going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And we're continuing our series on World Gone Crazy. So I look forward to hearing what Denny has to say to us tonight. Before we get started with that, of course, all you guys know Carcass John. Carcass, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Doing great as always. It's a choice, I think. Don't you choose to either, you wake up in the morning and you decide, I'm going to have a good day or a bad day? How many of us choose a bad day? I don't think I do. I haven't chosen a bad day in a long time. So here I am. You want me to read some lyrics?
Yes, read some lyrics for us.
I appreciate Denny taking time out of his busy schedule to be here, by the way. So thank you very much for that. But as our tradition goes, we try to come up with some sort of song lyrics because Brett and I have a connection with music, and this I think kind of fell into my lap by accident. This particular artist is a family friend. This is Tanner Usry, and the song is called "The Light." So I'll read the first verse and then the chorus, and then I think that'll suffice. But it says, well, the shape I'm in, it ain't no good for me. I stay drunk all the time and I can't get no sleep. Well, I'm in my own self-inflicted misery. I got no one to blame, no one to blame but me. And then the chorus goes, I got the devil on my shoulder and an angel to my right. One leads to redemption and one takes me to hell tonight. People say I'm crazy, and they're probably right. Living so close to the edge that I can't see the light. Oh, see that light. Now, I thought this was pretty appropriate because I wonder how many people we know medicate because they just can't seem to handle the circumstances around them. So that's what struck me about that song. And like I said, Tanner's a good friend. I know that he sings from the heart and sings from experience too. So maybe we can sort through some of the ways that we can deal with our own self-inflicted burdens in how we deal with problems of the world.
Well, look, our guest tonight is Denny. Like I said, his name is Denny Brewer. He's a brother to me. He's of counsel with my firm, and we work on big cases together. He's intricately involved with Fellowship Church. He and his family started church law, which I talked about. So, Denny, you know that we're talking about tonight, world gone crazy. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it has gone crazy. I think it's always been a little crazy. And I don't want to throw a curve here, but I think we're all a little crazy. I think there's some things that we can do to be less crazy.
Well, I think Brett would second that notion because he and I have known each other for a long, long time. How long has it been, Brett? Has it been 15 years?
20.
20?
Yeah.
Well, there
I've
you
been
go.
in this house 20 years and you did the landscape design.
So we've known each other a long, long time. Long time.
John, and I got to tell you, Brett and I go back to like the elementary days. So
Wow.
we're old Irving guys. And looked up one day and I'm like, wow, Brett actually made it out there, man. He's a great lawyer. I'm hearing all these great stories about him. I don't know what kind of stories you heard about me, but we were both out there in the trenches practicing law for a long time. And
Well,
still are.
I think that the people that have to work for it a little bit have a bigger appreciation for their successes, and they don't get spoiled by their success because they remember from whence they came. But yes, I've heard the stories about the Irving way of doing things. So from Brett many times.
Right.
Don't forget it either, Fossum. We still carcass.
I won't forget. Believe me, lessons learned. As I get older, believe me, the lessons I learned stick with me.
Dude, I got a guy named 7'1" named Chop. Have I ever told you about Chop?
Nope.
He's 7'1". He's so big he had to take the front seat out of his car to drive it.
Wow.
I mean, when things get ugly, I'll send Chop. Anyways, sometimes you have to do that. But Diddy, tell us about church law. What is church law and how does it affect your life?
Well, it's it's kind of a made up term. I don't know if there's really considered a specialty, but it is. It's not recognized as like family law or criminal law, where you can actually become board certified in those areas, right? And in fact, for years I practiced as a board certified specialist in the field of family law, and it's a long story that I won't get into here, but kind of in a strange roundabout way, we started representing churches and ministries. We had a large organization that moved into Irving and put their international headquarters there. And first we got involved where, let's say, the cart was in the ditch, and we were a trial firm primarily, and started helping some pastors out and some churches out. And then it became evident to me that hey, a lot of these churches, even the large churches, and we're kind of in the mecca of mega churches here in Dallas, Texas. A lot were running their churches like a mom and pop shop, and we felt like, hey, we could start helping these churches out. Whether it's start with their bylaws, their governance documents, safety procedures, hiring, firing, all the things that you would deal with in a for-profit, but with a lot of nuances when you get into a nonprofit, and then even more nuances when you get into a church. And so we started representing a number of organizations, and like anything, if you do a decent job, you're going to get referrals, and so that part of our practice really grew over time. And now I would be remiss if I didn't add, I'm the ultimate oxymoron. I actually went on staff at Fellowship Church, which is a great church. I'm very biased. It's a multi-campus church. The main campus is in Grapevine, Texas, and I'm general counsel for Fellowship, and it's led by Pastor Ed Young, great guy, very very dear friend of mine, outstanding leader. And we also have an association of churches that consist of several hundred churches across the country, some across the globe. And so I dedicate a good bit of my time there. And you're never going to see me, by the way, on the big stage. As close as I come to that world, I teach a Bible class, and that's it. But it's an area of law that's very interesting. And believe it or not, I felt like my family law practice actually prepared me for it. There's when you're dealing with people, then you add to it their religion, their faith. There can be some drama, and every now and then people say, well, why would I even need a lawyer? Why would a church need a lawyer? Why would you need to have a church lawyer? Well, there's a lot of reasons. So a lot of fun. And then I get to wear my other hat with you, Brett, as we work back in the courtrooms.
There's a lot going on out in the world today with preachers. I don't want to mention names on our podcast, but Ed Young, I remember when he started his church at the Buena Vista in Irving. That's when I used to go with Troy Aikman to the church back then. But I was going to bring up the fact that it's very evident that the pastors are having problems just like everybody else, with that one preacher accused of sexual assault on a 12-year-old, and the other one in town taking a leave of absence for sin. So it's obvious preachers are like any other profession. You got your top 3%, then it goes from there.
Yeah. It's man, it's life. And I don't want to state the obvious. They're human beings. They have frailties just like we all do. I think we would all agree they got to be held to a higher standard. They ultimately answer to God. They They live in a glass house. There's a lot of great pastors out there. I think I heard somebody say the other day about 30,000, just the US. There's a lot that you never hear about that are outstanding. And then some of the guys that they messed up. Some more so than others. But you got to keep your eye on God. You can't look at man, even your preacher, even your pastor, but you start doing that, you're going to really mess up.
Carcass, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I need to backtrack just a tad. And you said Ed Young. That's a familiar name to me because I lived in Houston for my first 17 years in Texas, and I did some work for Ed Young, but it was senior. Would this be his son? I guess
his son.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Young, great man. Recently retired.
Yeah.
In his late 80s, still going strong. He's got 3 sons. 2 are on staff. They're at Second Baptist Houston. Great church. Enormous church. And do fabulous things for the community. Have one of the best schools in the country there. So you've got Ben Young, who's now the senior pastor of Second Baptist Houston. Cliff Young, who, by the way, started a group called Caedmon's Call, had great success in the contemporary Christian world. And Cliff's on staff there at Second. And then Ed came up to a little town, Irving, Texas, 30-something years ago, and started Fellowship Church. And
I had being in business for myself. I had and I worked almost exclusively in that area, Memorial, Post Oak area, and had a chance to meet some of those great folks. And they have a good church league basketball team too. We come to find out because, and I've been a church going person my whole entire life, and like you said, we're all human beings and we have our frailties. I know that we're sometimes held to a church-going person may be held to a higher standard, and that's where the real disappointment comes. But there's a lot of responsibility with being in charge, whether you're the CEO of a company or the pastor of a church. And so, but to your point, I can see where, and I've been falsely accused of things too, and I know some of that goes on, and so I could see where legal counsel would be imperative to especially someone like that.
You know what, Carcass? All the people that go to Fellowship is a really big church, and they do a real good job of getting in people's hearts. When I had my discovery training, when I had my seminar, I always sent people to church on Sundays, and it was Fellowship. And so they'd all go over there and have a good time because they didn't feel they were judged. It's a heartfelt church, but that's good. But you got to be careful because people's emotions are raw, and that's when predators try to take advantage of people. So you got to be careful with it. And I'm sure Ed and Denny's top priority is to make sure everyone's safe.
Absolutely.
Well, I know
that's something that you look at when you work with churches, especially the large churches where you have a lot of children that are coming through. That's a critical aspect to make sure you've got a safe place and you're taking care of those kids.
That's no 3-strike place. That's 1 strike and you're out.
Yeah,
right?
you're out.
Absolutely,
dude.
Yeah,
you're out. You're out of here. I love Jesus too, but I love my people. You're out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think as Christians, to use the colloquialism, we are to forgive others. We are not to judge them. Although we have to when we make a choice, sometimes we're making a judgment call, and I think that's where the idea of judgment gets muddled. But having been an active Boy Scout leader and being part of that, and having to go through all the special training now that you had to go through, it was frightening because as just a regular person, I'm just a regular person. I thought, do we really have to talk about this? Because I had no idea that it was that things like that were promiscuity with kids and so forth were going on. I just assumed that we were teaching kids how to build a campfire and pitch a tent and chop wood and do whatever. But so it is a little frightening out there, and I think that the churches have to be careful, like you said, of who they put into place in
Absolutely.
order to direct traffic.
Absolutely. Carcass, it just
Absolutely.
came to me. It came to me. The light's here. Let me beat on the desk. Carcass, listen.
I'm listening.
So these universities who's got trouble with all these kids that don't know what they're arguing over, those kids are part of a community, right? And that community's messed up. They don't even know what they're talking about. So when we put people through treatment and recovery in the alcohol world, we put them through the treatment center and then we transition them out. We put an aftercare program to transition them back into a sober community. Got it? I was having breakfast with a dear friend of mine, Stephen Medley, and he's a young one that does a good job. He owns sober living houses, and we were talking about a kid who really failed in his recovery, and the reason he failed is people have to be part of a community. Period. Now, whether it's a drug community, a drunk community, right, or a church community, I'll take my chances with a church community like Fellowship any day of the week before I put it up with these university kids fighting, right? It's about people have to have, God doesn't want you to be by yourself. Preach, Brett, preach. God wants you to be in a community. And it's a community filled of love. And they do the best job they can to keep it safe and keep it loving and keep it moving forward.
Well, what did I send you on Sunday? I was sitting there in church, and and things come to me too. You know, when I can leave the world at the doorstep for a little bit. I said our road to happiness is often accompanied by others, and I think that to your point, we're not here to do this by ourselves. And I was remembering, based on what you were saying, I mean, I've had surgeries. And after my surgery, I wasn't in the hospital anymore, but they didn't just put me on the curb and say, "Okay, see you later." They gave me a program that will help me get stronger and recover from that injury. And I think that addiction is like an injury. And
That is.
if you treat the injury and then just cut them loose, they're probably going to injure themselves again, i.e., um, go back to what they were doing.
Yeah, they are brain injured. That's a
Hey,
whole
John,
different
I think one of the most important things we can do is to have the right they in our lives, the right people. And, you know, you think, well, you should be able to do it yourself, and maybe between you and your wife. And I have a great wife. Brett does as well. Thank God for that. That helps a lot. But even beyond that, to have the right people in your life. And what I do, I come in contact with a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that are not Christians. I have a number who are very new in their faith, but the people that I'm going to keep very close, the people that I'm going to rub close shoulders with are going to be the right they, and we can really get messed up if we have the wrong they, if we have the wrong people, the wrong friends close in our lives.
Amen to that.
Told me the other day about the they. What's the they stand for? THEY.
Okay, I'll see if I can get this acrostics right. So you got T. I want tough friends. I want H. Honest friends. I want Brett Stalkup enthusiastic friends, and then I want friends that are yielded to God. And I'm telling you, in this crazy world, if you don't have God in your life, you're going to be slap crazy. And you know what? Interesting thing that I've seen from studying by the way, the best-selling book still in the world, the Bible. As Christians, we have wisdom available to us. It's all throughout the Bible, and if we ask for it, we can have that. If we're not Christians, I would argue that we might be very smart, we might have a high IQ, but we're not going to have wisdom. And especially in this kind of crazy wheels off time, where right is wrong and wrong is right? Because we've kind of seen that, right, Brett, in our lifetimes, John? In our lifetimes, I mean, we've seen a total reversal. So somebody our age is going, what are you talking about? I mean, how are you saying that is normal and that this is not normal? So wisdom. I mean, and you see some of the folks and you're going, how can you be that smart? How can you be in that position and make such bad calls? They don't have wisdom.
Well, and I think to your point, Denny, is that I know a guy, he literally can start in Genesis and go all the way to Revelations and quote the Bible. However, he doesn't have a conviction about it. He just knows all the words. And I think that if we learn principles, whether they're inside a religion or outside, I think your intellect takes you to a certain point in your life, and then you have to let your heart and soul be your guide. And I know a lot of people that are intelligent but don't, like to your point, have wisdom because they don't apply those principles.
Right.
They have tons of knowledge but no smarts.
Diddy and I were talking about this other day, Carcass, and you'll relate to it. So it's all about going down the river of life forward, right? Downstream. It's not about going backwards and going upstream. So if you're going downstream, dude, you got new people in your life. You have the right they in your life, and you're gonna have a good life. You're gonna have peace and joy and love. But these people who go on Facebook, dude, go on Facebook and go back to their high school classes, and they try to hit on their old girlfriends, or you know, oh yeah. Next thing you know, they're dating. Next thing you know, they're getting divorced. Dude, that ain't right. That's not right.
No.
That's exactly opposite of what we're talking about. They're going backwards. They're not going forward. You like that, Carcass?
I think, well, man, I have a whole pile of stuff that's coming back into my head right now. I agree with you. I think that, as I mentioned before in other podcasts, you can't plow a straight line if you're looking behind you. You have to find that center point, drive to it, and then turn around and then follow that same path that you just made. And I think it's important. And I'm in a unique relationship, and I absolutely adore this person, but I like them as a human being too. I think that sometimes we fall into the trap of we love someone so much that we want them to be better or be different or fit into our mold. And loving someone is one thing, but appreciating them and being their friend and being a true friend, I think, is something else. So I don't need to know what happened to you 15, 20 years ago. And what I asked her when we were still young in our relationship, I said, is what you're going to tell me a problem now? She said, no. Is what you're telling me going to be a problem moving forward into the future? No. Well, then guess what? I don't
want to hear it.
I don't want to hear it because
I don't want to hear it, dude.
I can't change it. You can't change it. Nobody can change it. The past is always perfect, despite it being whether the road is bumpy or smooth. It really doesn't matter. The past is what it is, and we can't change it. So why dwell on it? Now, can you learn from it? Absolutely. And I've learned some hard lessons by reflecting on my past. And Denny, you might see me looking down and writing. It's not that I'm not paying attention. I'm taking notes because I'm going to reflect back on our conversation. And as mentioned, I appreciate you taking the time out for us because I'm learning something. I learned something from every time I talk to Brett. I hope he learned something from me, and I'm learning something from you. So,
hey, John, something I like the picture of driving down the road in your car. If you're looking at the rear view mirror going 60 miles down the road, what's going to happen? You're going to crash.
You're going to miss what's in front of you, and you're probably going to wreck. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And, it's okay to glance every now and then. And as you say, learn from some of those things that happened in your life, but you don't dwell on it. You move on.
Yep. And I think people.
I know Brett and I've lived perfect lives.
Oh, yeah.
If we were to look back in that rear view, I mean, it would be a beautiful
I really don't know what
all
he's
the way
done.
back.
Dude, I've been that dead skunk in the middle of the road.
Hey, you know what the difference is between a dead skunk and a dead lawyer in the road? The dead skunk has skid marks in front of it.
Oh boy.
Hey,
Well, you know what?
Anyway,
Carcass, I want Denny to answer this for us.
Okay. Because I was going to tell him I actually like my lawyer.
Yeah, that's good.
I
Yeah.
like that. You
I
should.
got you fooled.
There's a lot of great lawyers out there, and
Yeah, there
give
is.
me one that loves their clients. You know, we're out there.
And we're all going to have a hard days. I had a little hard day today, but that's hey, listen to this one. I want Denny to help us because we talked about
Okay.
this during the week, Carcass. So, Denny,
Yes.
you got a pastor who's been accused of molesting a minor child, or you got a pastor that's accused of sleeping with a person that's a member of the church, not his spouse. Okay. Or whatever it is. You got a you got a you got a preacher that's accused of breaking in a building. How do you handle that as a church if you have a pastor that's been accused of that? Because I got an answer for it, but I want to hear yours.
Okay. Well, churches are set up a lot differently. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is how is that church governed? Because that's gonna impact how it gets dealt with. I'm biased. I mean, I'll tell you right now. And I've prepared, and my firm has prepared hundreds of bylaws for hundreds of churches over the years. I'm very biased as to how I think a church should be governed, but there's no totally right answer. But that's the first issue is, okay, so who is the governing body? So who do you go to? Who's going to make the call? Let me just say up front, let's just be really frank. The pastors in a church, you got to answer to a much higher standard. And you got allegations, and then you've got situations where there's guilt. Those are obviously two separate situations as well. But that senior pastor who is let's say has an affair with somebody in the church, I think you've probably forfeited your right to pastor a church. Maybe you need to go do something else in life. There's also there's some criminal statutes out there. In Texas, you can have a consensual relationship, a pastor and a congregant. And if that congregant takes a position that that this was my pastor, and because of this fiduciary type relationship, I'll use a legal term there, this special trust relationship, I was somewhat taken advantage of, or I was taken advantage of, that's a felony. Consensual, two adults, a child, totally, I mean, you just can't, no, you can't tolerate that. There's no coming back from that. Now, is there forgiveness? Can there be healing? Yes, but frankly, I think there are just some lines once they're crossed, you sacrifice that tremendous privilege to lead a church.
Carcass and I have this South Irving. Denny, that was very picturesque. I mean, that was a very good explanation. I was like,
I think he's
dude.
done this before, Brett.
Huh?
I think he's done this a time or two. So
I'm like, dude, tell me the truth. Don't lie to me. If you did it, you did it. Let's put you in a treatment center somewhere and get you some help. But don't play this game that you're a victim. You know what I mean?
Seeing what has happened in the church world, it's terrible. I mean, in my books, there's nothing worse that can happen than a child to be molested by anybody at church camp. And here's the fact of the matter: you have predators that they look for easy targets, and I hate to say this, but the church can be an easy target. So you don't want to be an easy target. and you want to educate your staff. You want to educate your people. You want to let them know that, hey, that best volunteer just may be grooming you as the gatekeeper to these children. So you've got to be wise. You got to be educated, and you got to talk about it, and you got to think about it. You got to stay very well aware. As far as indiscretions, again, I mean, it's and I try, try to educate, especially some of these young pastors. That let me just tell you, once you are a minister of the gospel, by law, you answer to a higher standard, not just in God's economy, because you certainly do there, but you also do in the law. I mentioned one situation, right, where you can have consensual relations, but because you wear that cloak as a pastor, as a spiritual leader, and that person looks to you in that regard, you can find yourself with a scarlet letter slapped on your back and registering as a sex offender the rest of your life if you're not towing the line.
Well, as you mentioned, Brett and Denny, I used to tell my kids, please tell me the truth. This will be an uncomfortable conversation, but if I find out the truth and you had told me something different, then that's a whole different conversation. And I think that part of the reason why churches could be an easy target, as you say, I'm doing the air quotes thing, is because part of being benevolent and religious is to trust in others because you're
Right.
trusting in a higher power, you're having faith, you're exercising faith. You wouldn't think um, you wouldn't think that someone would do that in that type of role, but it happens because
And
once
John,
again, and we circle back to the human factor, we're still human beings. We're not perfect.
we saw it with the YMCA, the Boy Scouts, and it's terrible, but unfortunately, a lot of times it takes something horrible to happen to wake people up and put safeguards in, guardrails, and you just have to be. You can't be careful enough. I mean, background checks, and here's the interesting thing about background checks. That's just a starting point, but most abusers, they're serial, right? And they can go a long time without ever having that first occasion where they get caught. So you
Yeah.
can't depend upon that. That's just one step you take. But you have very strict guidelines. I mean, you don't have one adult with one child. You have multiple adults. A lot of things you can do along those lines that can protect and
Well,
diminish the opportunity.
it's frightening to me, and as an Eagle Scout and a longtime Scouter, um, I participated in that program for decades and never even gave that a second thought. And we trained our young men with skills that hopefully will keep them safe and keep them um, out of hot water in life. And you know what? To add that as an extra element to worry about is just frightening to me. And and I've seen churches not sign their charter again. They're just there's too much risk there. So they basically take a program in house and remove that program from their regular curriculum, and it's sad because I can I have so many invaluable lessons that I learned as a Boy Scout and
Sure.
especially as an Eagle Scout.
And you're in the great outdoors, which, by the way, is one of my 7 recommendations for avoiding going crazy in this crazy world. Get out in the great outdoors. I know Brett and I, we both love to fish, right? And there's something about getting out there, and I think God speaks to us through His Word, through the Bible. He also speaks to us through this beautiful world He created. And I have a couple of grand boys that live here in the Dallas area. I have another one that lives down in Waco, and I love the fact that my daughter Allie and her husband, who's a young pastor, they have those boys outside all the time, and I think that's so important. I think too many of our kiddos they don't get to spend enough time outside.
Well, part of the reason I chose my course of work was I didn't want to get strapped to a desk. I was a graphic design major in college. I like drawing pretty pictures. I do freelance art on the side, but I have to be outside. And I learned that we're stewards of the earth, and it's great. You know, all those elegies in the Bible that talk about the grain of a mustard seed and growing into a large tree and the faith and the so forth. It's fun to see it in real time where you plant a tree and watch it grow. Even at Brett's house, I remember when some of that stuff got planted into the ground and now it's big and mature and lush and beautiful, and it's been well tended and it's been taken care of, and all those things add up to the same lesson, to your point, to get outside and to take care of that. And sometimes I'll travel, and when I go to the mountains, there's something majestic about sitting on a mountain and looking down and just being quiet for a minute and listening.
Absolutely.
Hey, Carcass, listen to this. So the more I think about this, I'm still stuck on this pastor with this 12-year-old because, you know, I've represented so many like him. And this is the last bit of negativity I want on the show, okay? Because I want to go, we're going to get to some resolutions here in a minute. But that dude has to wake up every morning knowing he molested that 12-year-old girl on an ongoing basis. You know what I mean? And he got all these people looking at him, rah, 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 rah. You're the best. Thank you. You know, it goes to show God can use broken people, number one. But number two is secrets kill people, man. Secrets kill people.
No doubt.
And this guy woke up every day with a secret. And this poor person has been traumatized to the point of, God bless her. I hope people are listening to her because she deserves to be heard. But then again, who the heck am I to tell somebody about secrets kill people? And I've been thinking about this because I'm going to go see my priest before I go on my fishing trip July 4th, because I'm 66 and I want to reflect while I'm fishing on what's the next 10 years look like for me. I
Well,
want to be closer to God. I want to be more involved in a good community, my church. I want to make a difference.
well, just
And I'm going to
remember
get
what my
his
dad
idea.
said, Brett.
Huh?
Just remember what my father told me. If you don't feel close to God, guess who moved?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
that's right.
and you know what? There's something different between being secret and sacred. I think sometimes we wear our religion on our sleeve a little too much, when those things should remain in our heart and with our closest friends and people at the right time. But you're right, secrets are deadly, and they're
Deadly.
very, very treacherous.
The other thing, I want to make amends to anybody that's ever hearing this show that I've done any harm to, because I don't want to go down with any regrets. You know, I'm grace of God go I, but
Me too,
huh?
Me too. You're going to make me confess too.
Yeah,
No, hey, seriously. And God forgives us, but we have to repent and we come forward with it, right? And I'm not saying, it's always that we go public with it, but we certainly go to God with it. And it's a daily thing, right? And if I could say this about church, and I hate it when these things happen, and of course the press gets all over these stories, and this is a story what you're alluding to, Brett. It does need to be told. There's so many great things that happen that never get told, and of course that's true about a lot in life, right? I mean, our press likes to talk about all the negative, but I sincerely believe this, and I've seen it, for now decades, at my church, at Fellowship Church, which I'm very biased towards it, but I'm also in the inside of it. I know it real well. I know my pastor real well. I know the leadership there real well, and I love my church, and I see the life change that goes on there, and I see it, like this past week we had 66 little first and second graders that gave their life to the Lord out at our Alasso Ranch out in East Texas. True life change, and The other thing that I love about church, we have to keep in mind that I really think if it's a biblical church, you're going to have people there that aren't even Christians. They're there. Hopefully you're attracting people that are checking it out. And so you come to my church and there's going to be people sitting in that first chair that they don't know God. You're going to see people sitting in that second chair that, and I'm using that metaphorically, that just became Christ followers. And then hopefully you've got a whole boatload of folks that are fully devoted followers and are going to give their time and they're going to give, frankly, their resources, because I'll tell you, there's no institution that God ever built. Didn't build Texas A&M. I'll pick on it because I'm an SMU guy. He didn't build the universities. He didn't build the private schools. He built the church. And I do believe the church is the hope. Now, it's not in and of itself, but I say we revolve our lives around the church and get our families in there and revolve their lives around the church. That's my commercial. I'll shut up.
So let me talk about the takeaways here real quick. So we agree that people need to live in a healthy community. Your community that you live in needs to be healthy. Yeah. Carcass, is that a yes?
That's a yes, sir.
Okay, good.
That's an amen.
We agree that the they has to be uniformed, right? T stands for, Denny, help me.
Tough.
H stands for
honest.
E stands for
enthusiastic.
And Y
encouraging.
Stands for
yielded.
That's awesome. We also, the takeaway is secrets kill people. Just tell the truth, dude.
Yeah.
Pull the Band-Aid off, rip it off, and get
good,
square.
Brett.
You know what I mean?
The cover up is almost always worse than the crime, right?
It always is. And can I just interject one thing? This whole thing of forgiveness, I think that people as a whole need to learn to forgive themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
It's hard enough to forgive others, but I see people that eat, as my dad would say, eat their own liver over their inadequacies or their wrongdoings. Not everyone's gonna, I played basketball from the time I was 5, and I was never super talented, but I worked my tail off and I was always at least on the team. But I never had visions of grandeur. I was honest with myself, but I was there and I did the best I could. And I think that as human beings, sometimes we're not always going to be Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or Larry Bird. But you know what? That doesn't mean we can't enjoy the game. So some people have a ton of money, some people and are miserable. Some people have no money and they're happy as a lark. I think I fall somewhere in between there because I'm not rich in a monetary sense, but I feel blessed and almost, as it says, with the windows of heaven are open and you'll receive the blessings and you won't be able to handle how many there are. And I feel like that right now.
Carcass, you've grown so much.
Because I'm in a good place.
Good.
It's awesome.
Okay, let me keep going because we got to finish up or people are going to start hanging up on us. So listen, let's talk about this one more time, Carcass.
Okay.
The community. I think that's very important. So you can live in a sober community. You can live in a loving church community. You can live in a drug community or a drunk community. It's your choice, right? But the community you live in defines who you are, and it helps you live a peaceful life. We agree with that? Do we agree
with that?
Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
Amen. All right. We always like to conclude our podcast with a cool saying. Today is Denny's favorite, which is pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered.
Come on.
Us urban guys stick together, right?
That's right.
And that's as gangster as it gets right there. You urban boys.
Hey. So
hey, there's some gangsta in our blood. Trust
I know
me.
there is. I know that's right.
So Denny, we want to thank you for coming
it was
to
fun.
our show and
My
sharing.
pleasure.
You're an awesome person, an awesome friend and brother to me.
You are, Brett.
We invite you to always come and ask questions on our comment. We scared everybody tonight. It's okay. We're growing very fast, and we like that. You can always find us on choicespodcastofficial.com. Facebook, I'm finally starting to learn how to use the tool. Mark's helping me. And YouTube, you can always find us there, or you can always find us on our website. Feel free to call me anytime you want at my law office, 214-219-1000 if you have any questions. Anyways, we love you guys. Thank you for being with us. And world's gone crazy, but we're going to live in a better community. Y'all have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Danny. Appreciate you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.